The history of food is the history of humanity.
A lot of our social life is organized around food.
And it's a story that has continued as man has ventured into space.
The iron content of the astronaut's diet should be lower than the diet on Earth.
In space, I just hated sweet. I remember they gave me a coffee with sugar. I couldn't drink.
One of the Apollo astronauts is very proud that he was the only human who has ever eaten spaghetti on the moon's surface.
As we plan longer missions and future voyages of exploration, research into food and nutrition is at the forefront of the effort to travel to and build bases on other planets in our solar system.
The target for a Mars mission is to be able to recycle roughly 40% of the food.
Most of us in Europe are lucky enough to take food for granted. Yet, if you really think about it, we still spend a great deal of our lives getting, preparing and of course eating the stuff. In fact, for most of human history, the majority of people spent all of their lives just producing the food they needed to survive. And in many parts of the world, this is still the way millions of people live. It was only in the 19th and 20th centuries that many of us left fields and migrated to towns and cities to work in the factories and the offices of the modern world. The reason that food is such an integral part of our lives is because it provides us the fuel that we convert into energy. This tractor needs fuel to work, but instead of running on diesel, our bodies unlock the energy we need from the food that we eat. This makes food and eating a huge part of our lives. But food is much more than just fuel. From the moment you were conceived and began to develop in your mother's womb, your body has been getting most of the raw material it needs to build and repair itself from nutrients in food.
And it's exactly the same in space. To spend more than a few hours in space, we have to take supplies of food and water with us.
I'm a life scientist working for the European Space Agency ESA. At ESA, there are thousands of scientists and engineers involved in research into how we can live in space. We have a big challenge ahead of us. As we plan missions to other planets, we have to find ways of building space farms and actually producing food and water in space.
Many of these projects are being tested on the International Space Station, the ISS. The ISS has been built 400 kilometers above our heads in an international effort of research and space exploration. Traveling at 28,000 kilometers per hour, it orbits the Earth 16 times every day.
But to really understand food and nutrition in space, let's find out exactly why we need food and how we convert it into the fuel and other essentials for life. Any physical or mental activity, let alone competing on this course, our bodies need energy. Every time we speak, blink and even dream, we use energy.
The cells in our bodies use the energy stored in food for everything from building proteins, copying genetic information and of course moving our muscles. Believe it or not, our brains use more energy than any other single organ in your body. Just thinking uses 20% of the energy we need.
3, 2, 1,
How is energy stored in food in the first place? Food is mostly made up from three groups of chemical compounds: carbohydrates, fats and proteins.
Back on the road, nice and low.
Carbohydrates and fats are mostly used for energy, whilst proteins are the building blocks for every cell in our bodies.
But what foods do we need to eat to get these essential ingredients? Foods like bread and pasta are full of carbohydrates. We get fats from milk, cheese and vegetable products such as oil. And we get proteins again from animal products or some vegetables such as soy. Food also gives us the important minerals and vitamins that our bodies need to rebuild themselves and control vital chemical reactions.
Like the crude oil that is pumped out of the ground and then converted into the petrol and diesel for our cars, our bodies have to process food to get to the stored energy that is chemically locked up in food. The first part of this process is digestion.